They said he'd never be strong enough. They swore he'd break before he made it. But today, Dane Walker is a war machine. Body of steel, mind of titanium, endurance beyond pain, discipline beyond fear. From a fragile, invisible boy to a living example of strength and resilience. He didn't earn medals. He earned self-respect. He didn't chase applause. He chased evolution. When the world gave up on him, Dane carved himself into existence, muscle by muscle, day after day. Not with luck, not with talent, but with daily choices, with sweat, with pain. This isn't just a story about winning. It's a story about building with your own hands the best version of yourself. Dane Walker became the man he needed to be. Now, the question is, are you ready to become your own army? Because in the end, you either build your strength or you get crushed by your weakness. Before he became unshakable, Dane Walker was invisible. A weak body, a lost mind. Every day he woke up feeling the weight of his own existence. It wasn't the exhaustion from effort. It was the exhaustion of not being who he was supposed to be. His muscles frail, his breath short, his posture slumped. Dane carried the silent shame of knowing he was betraying himself. While others numbed themselves with comfort, he felt every second slipping away like poison. In the mirror, he didn't just see a body that was giving up. He saw a spirit that was fading. Every failed attempt, every empty promise, every wasted day built an invisible prison where he was both the prisoner and the warden. Dane had nothing that inspired respect, not from others, not even from himself. And the cruelest truth of all, he knew no one was coming to save him. No miracle plan, no magic shortcut, no savior. Just the hard, uncomfortable, brutal truth. If he wanted change, it had to be by his own hands. It was then, on an ordinary morning with no background music, no applause, no witnesses, that Dane Walker decided to die. Not the body, not life itself, but the weak, lost, and small version of himself. That morning, staring into the mirror at his own shame, Dane buried who he used to be. And he might have vowed to himself that he would be reborn as a new man. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when things got better. Now. That would be the last day Dane Walker ever felt ashamed of himself. The first battle began right there. Inside him, silent, lonely, relentless. Real change doesn't send a warning. It doesn't come with an instruction manual. It just knocks on your door once and moves on. Dane Walker knew that. The day he decided to kill the old version of himself, he also discovered another truth. If he wanted something new, he would have to walk where he had never walked before. Alone, no cheering crowd, no witnesses, no guarantees. Dane felt the temptation to wait for help, to seek approval, to look for someone to pull him up. But deep inside, a louder voice was screaming, "There will be no rescue, no saviors, it's just you against the weight." It was a brutal internal fight. Part of him wanted to quit before even starting. Part of him wanted to run back to his old comfort zone, even though it was killing him slowly. That's when Dane understood the cost of transformation, loneliness. He would learn sooner than he wanted that real growth is a lonely road. That the path to strength is walked in silence. That those who dare to change inevitably have to distance themselves from those who fear change. Dane knew the party invites would keep coming, that friends would mock his new routine, that some would leave, that many would laugh behind his back. But none of that mattered anymore, because now he was at war, not against the world, but against what was still weak inside him. Each lonely workout would be a battlefield. Every drop of sweat would be a small victory. Each decision to keep going would be a resignation letter to his old self. Dane accepted the price of greatness. He embraced the hunger, the pain, the doubt. He embraced the routine without applause, without likes, without validation. Because he knew real success isn't broadcasted. It's lived in silence in the dark while the world sleeps. When his muscles burned, when his lungs ached, when his spirit wanted to kneel, Dane would remember he chose this. He chose a path few have the guts to walk. He chose to be a one-man army. Not because it was easy, not because it was romantic, but because it was necessary. And in that moment, alone with his tired body and his soul on fire, Dane Walker understood. It's not the world that shapes us. We choose who we become. No one saw the beginning. No one cared about the awkward first workout, the shaky first steps. While the world was scrolling their feeds, judging, sleeping, and forgetting, Dane Walker was forging something they would never understand. In the dark, in the cold, in exhaustion, the process was brutal. Every morning started before the sun came up. Every workout ended only when the last drop of energy had been squeezed out of him. And there were no cameras rolling, no motivational posts, only pain. Pain in the muscles, pain in the bones, pain in the mind. But there was also something new. Pride. Not the kind of pride that needs outside validation, but the silent pride of knowing you are paying the price to be different. Dane began to understand the true alchemy of growth. With every rep, a piece of his old self died. With every drop of sweat, new strength was born. With every workout ignored by the world, Dane became someone the world would no longer be able to ignore. It wasn't about winning today. It wasn't about changing tomorrow. It was about building, layer by layer, a stronger body, a sharper mind, and a spirit that could not be broken. There were days when his body begged him to stop, mornings when every cell in him screamed to quit. But Dane had already made his choice. The easy way out died the day he decided to truly live. He trained even when he didn't feel like it. He stayed disciplined even when no one else saw the point. He ran even when his feet were ready to fail, because he knew real transformation doesn't happen in stadiums. It happens in dark rooms, on empty streets, in silent gyms at 5 a.m. Every ragged breath, every trembling muscle, every fall was part of the plan. Process was invisible to others, but brutally real to Dane. And day after day, without applause, without promises, without an audience, Dane Walker wasn't just training, he was forging himself. Because in the end, the gods of victory don't visit the comfortable, they bow to those who persist in the darkness. There comes a point when the body just doesn't want to obey anymore, when the muscles burn so much that the mind starts begging for surrender. That's exactly where Dane Walker found himself. And it's exactly where he refused to die. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to stop. Every breath felt like it was tearing his lungs apart. Every negative thought tried to sabotage him, reminding him of who he used to be. But Dane wasn't negotiating with his old self anymore. He had already buried the weak version. Now he was breaking limits. When his legs said no more, he pushed for 10 more steps. When his arms shook to the point of collapse, he cranked out 1 more rep. When his mind whispered, "That's enough for today," he added more weight. There were no more finish lines, no more comfort zones, only the next level. Dane learned that pain is just a messenger, not to stop, but to announce that you're on the right path. Every drop of sweat became fuel. Every internal tear turned into fire. He wasn't just training his body anymore. He was training his spirit, training the ability to endure where the weak fold, training the strength to find power when there was absolutely nothing left. It was there in that invisible battlefield that Dane Walker was transformed, not into an athlete, not into a social media champion, but into a soldier of himself, a warrior who bled during training so he wouldn't bleed in life. With every barrier crushed, with every limit destroyed, Dane buried a piece of doubt. Day after day, he killed fear, weakness, hesitation, and he gave life to the unbreakable. Because the truth is simple. Most people quit at the first sign of pain, but those who don't quit, they create legends. And by that point in his journey, Dane Walker wasn't training to be good anymore. He wasn't training just to be strong. He was training to become a legend. Dane Walker was no longer the same. Where there was once weakness, now there was strength as solid as stone. Where there was once doubt, now there was unshakable faith. Where there was once fear, now there pulsed raw courage. It wasn't luck. It wasn't talent. It was a decision. Day after day, workout after workout, choice after choice. The old Dane died, and in his place was born something few have the guts to become: a complete man. A man who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. A man who carried his strength in his eyes, in his body, in his presence. He wasn't chasing applause. He didn't need approval, because he had already won the only war that truly matters. The war against himself. Dane Walker became what most fear and few understand. A human being at his full potential. A one-man army. He rebuilt himself with sweat, wrote his story with pain, forged his character in silence. Now he was the living monument of what discipline can build. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing that could stop him. When the world tried to push him back, Dane just smiled, because he knew true victory isn't at the finish line. It's in the transformation that happens along the way. Dane Walker became his own hero, not because he wanted admiration, but because he refused to live shackled to mediocrity. And now, standing in front of the mirror, he no longer saw shame. He saw a reborn man, a man who stared into the abyss and built a bridge with his own hands. This isn't just Dane Walker's story. This can be your story too. If you have enough courage to choose the path no one sees. If you have enough discipline to stand up when everything inside you begs to quit. If you have enough faith to believe in yourself, even when the whole world doubts you. In the end, you'll understand you don't need applause. You don't need witnesses. You just need to decide. Dane Walker decided, and that changed everything. Now, the decision is yours.